Hello, welcome. This is the Knowledge Management Masterclass for architects, engineers, consultants in construction. You're in great company today. We've got globally a number of peers that you would recognise, including guest speakers. My name is Matthew. I'm a founding director of Flow 10, and I'll give you some indication of who we are and what we do shortly. And we've also got Gary from Cooper Carry, Atlanta, US-based leading practice, as well as Ed and Becky from LSI, who are an AJ 100 architectural practice. So in terms of today, we just wanted to really shine a light on the fact that as knowledge workers, design professionals, knowledge is one of your greatest assets. That's why you're here. You want to understand how to make better use of it. So we're wanting to look at some real life examples, and that's something that Cooper Carry from LSI Architect will be able to offer over the next hour. Before we start, I think it's useful to understand who we are. So Flow 10, we are part of a group called Milliant. We have over 1,000 architects, engineers, consultants. We're in a strong position to recommend new approaches and innovations that should be of use and help. We look after the whole life cycle of projects in terms of information management and operational controls. Today, it's all about knowledge sharing, knowledge management, retrieval of information when required. But more widely, and look out across this year, we do talks and have capabilities related to other aspects too. So just in terms of some brief numbers, we're working with just under 1,000 practices that you would perhaps be familiar with. And in terms of capability, we really focus on both project management, but also the practice management side of things. And I think a lot of this comes down to the questions that we need to answer with respect to the practice, or indeed individual teams and people. So for example, from an individual perspective, people are looking for examples. They want to know, really in terms of sensitive context, what projects, what documents, what images, what lessons learned, what particulars are available on comparable projects that they're either doing now or going to be doing in the future, and they want to research. And some of this would be in terms of looking for responses to certain queries and questions. So for example, who might be able to help me, or indeed, where is there some information that I could leverage, but I want to understand how successful that was, maybe from a sustainability perspective, potentially from a client response perspective, or something else indeed. So a lot of this would be about what other questions people are trying to answer. I think often that can be difficult to know, because apart from questions being raised in the office, or indeed potentially an all staff email, you perhaps don't have a knowledge solution that would show you what people are searching for and what they're trying to achieve. So we need to look at perhaps some of the capabilities underlying all this in terms of giving us the telltale signs as to whether people are satisfied with the knowledge that's available in a structured system. We've then also got practice questions. So some of this would be about underlying competency. Are we putting the right people on the right projects? Do we, when required, have the evidence needed from a legal perspective, or maybe again evidencing the kind of quality and knowledge you have for certain clients? Because I know that certain clients are wanting to have more indication now, for example, of training records and evidence of the like. We may want to be answering questions in terms of whether people are really engaging with their responsibilities. Now, yes, that could relate to knowledge management directly, in terms of whether or not certain experts and topic owners are actually updating information. It could be something as simple as, do we know for certain that the right best practice is in place and been updated regularly by the right people? How do we know, for example, that people are using the right templates, the right examples? Which will we do? And obviously, these things require some ownership. You also want to be aware and understand that where possible, systems need to drive automation and things easier. So in terms of the knowledge management capabilities, I think we should be looking at how do we give a really strong library of examples for people? How do we give an environment that understands who your team is and the kind of skills and talents they enjoy, and enable people to find each other more easily? How do we make sure that when information requires it has been updated on a timely basis and people are using the right information? We call that content review. How do we, when reaching certain gateways, stages on projects, or indeed at the end of the project, capture lessons learned and be the sort of practice that actually improves continuously? And how do we ascertain and ensure that the right information is being read and consumed? There may be a need from a PI perspective or from an IMS quality perspective to make absolutely certain that when there's a policy change, people have seen it and also people have acknowledged it. And underpinning all this, you need to have a way of people searching. So, of course, you've got a number of different silos of information. You've got potentially the opportunity to improve your underlying knowledge hub. But how do people search? People's demands now are greater than ever. People will be using AI, which we'll come on to a little bit shortly when we get into talking with Gary. But in terms of now, how do people find things? Are they satisfied with the kind of searching that they can do? And often we're seeing that people are using things like Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, and maybe it's good for a sort of short-term basis of being able to exchange or share information, but actually for a long term, it could be quite hard to get your hands on the really good quality that's then going to help you. And if we underpin the project delivery and the excellence that we want to reach, you realise that to support project delivery, there's so many different facets related to both general operations, but also the culture and the knowledge sharing that goes on in your practice. I mean, this is amplified clearly with people working from home. It's amplified again by having different teams and different offices. But with respect, whether there's a few or many within your teams, there is a great deal of requirement in order to satisfy all these various methods that we're seeing here in terms of a happy, productive place to work with low staff turnover, through to a creative environment where people are sharing examples, where people are adding to the information base that you offer, and making certain that the workflows that are going on during day-to-day projects or winning projects is leveraging this information and being accessible to you. So we want to try and, where we can, become more efficient. We want to make less errors. We want to win more projects that are of the right type. We want to deliver the best possible projects. And realistically, I think there's quite a lot of frustration that can occur now when it comes to the sheer volumes of information out there. There's a lot of quality information, of course, in people's heads. Some of that walks out the door over time. There's a great deal of information available on a network share in folders. It can be extremely difficult to navigate. And then there's often an intranet in place that may lack in terms of readiness. It may lack in terms of accurateness of information. And it may not particularly excite or delight in terms of what people expect now in terms of use of modern platforms. And of course, again, you've got multiple systems. So how do we unite all of that and bring it together in a knowledge management solution for the 21st century? So we want to try and drive better visibility, and we want to really encourage, through a technology as well as a process, as well as a culture, this ability, this additive environment that people want to go to every day and want to add to. In terms of automation and curation, something we get asked about a lot when it comes to knowledge management would be, well, we want to have the best possible knowledge on tap when needed, but actually, essentially, there's not enough resource day to day to curate and manage that information, that knowledge. So what I would recommend here is that in some cases, that's a future phase down the line where you have more involvement by more people. But of course, you can't rely on just one or two individuals, such as IT or marketing, doing everything from a knowledge management perspective. So you could find a balance, a good balance between automation, where you have lots of feeds and connectors, pulling information that's of interest into one environment, and having a solution potentially that recognizes what people need to see, recognizes what people's interests are, potentially from the groups that they occupy within the practice, or indeed their particular requests. I'm particularly interested in certain topics. I want to receive information about those events, those news articles, about the guidance around the projects related to that topic. Some of that can be driven automatically, but again, there may be some areas that always are going to need the vetting process, the effort to make certain that the quality is there. We've then also got to consider the fact that there's findability and discoverability. So systems are great in terms of traditionally they're giving structure. Databases are about structure. And when required, you should easily be able to search in enterprise search and find what you're looking for. Sometimes we move into discoverability, which is you don't know that something exists. And you may actually along the way occupy something, find something that's genuinely fascinating and highly useful that you didn't know was there. And I think that's where we get into the next maturity level of knowledge management. And we need to make sure that knowledge management is part of the process. And so what I mean by this is that it's no good to have a knowledge management system or systems that are not part of the day-to-day, they're not actually part of project running. And so I say we in terms of those on this call today, are really about trying to make sure that there's not another system of record, not another process that needs to be dealt with. Systems, information management systems should be there to help, and they should be there to help projects. But how can we make sure that that thing is harnessing both the information that people need, but also manifesting itself in a way that's going to be helpful in the future? So this is a lot about trying to make sure that people have information at the right times. That could be when they need it because they're searching for it, but it might be when the practice requires somebody to do something. How do we give them the right tools? How do we give them the right toolkit, a wider set of information, whether it be templates and guidance, or leverage the knowledge of others who might know more than the individual that is trying to do the particular item. So workflow, process, and knowledge need to go hand in hand. And that's something that we've been working on now for many years with the world's leading design and engineering and consulting practice. In the UK, and this will be similar if you're joining us from the US, there are these clear steps in many of your disciplines, whether you be, in this case, looking from REBA, or indeed if you're an engineer, there's this idea of having various steps. Sometimes there's a need to say give people information the right point of these processes, but also sometimes you need to ensure that the right things are being dealt with and done. And that's something that, again, I think from a knowledge management perspective, we should be overlaying the key aspects of project running within the context of your services ecosystem. So with that in mind, I thought it was useful, rather than just to dive straight in to Gary's presentation, wanted to kind of give you some example in terms of what this might look like. So in principle, in summary, you've got here a Flow 10 system, which can look quite different, and you will see Cooper Carries looks different, LSIs looks different. So of course important, because your graphical branding and aesthetic should be reflected in the system. From a Flow 10 example here, what you can see is it knows who I am, it's giving me latest news, telling me what projects are going on. It's not adding another place where this is being recorded. This is all connected to your central project systems, whether that be a project finance system or a project information management system. We typically connect to the leading one in the industry. It's also telling me not just things that are going on, but things I need to be aware of, tasks that I have, things I need to read, and they've gone red because they've passed their deadlines. So does handbooks change? Maybe there's a policy change. How do we know that people have actually seen them and dealt with it? Indeed, when you click on these items, it would even suggest to me, and you can see in the top right-hand corner, not just the fact this is a new sustainability charter, but it's actually telling me how many people of the group required to read this have actually read it. And I can go in there and actually see who those people are. So there's this sort of need to improve and support the quality management side of things, as well as just get information to people. You can see here a library calendar of CPD, and it's quite easy for me to actually register to attend. And then I can actually download this to my calendar. If it was a training event or a CPD event, I can track the number of points that individuals have managed to record over the course of a period, which indeed may then need to go to your industry body. And we can see here other events. We can see the information, whether it be templates or training materials or links to information, including whole areas of the site that may be owned by particular people. So it's very important, whether you use Flow 10 or something else, that you have a way of recognizing key topics of interest in practice and then identifying and associating that with individuals who can actually be delegated directly to maintain those knowledge areas. So you can see here Aidan has shared various links. There's other people in the team. There's also the ability to link in potentially other sites of interest related to the topic. And you could just search for something quite quickly and get a result set back. So for example, here I've looked for fire safety, and I can actually then start to understand what information within fire safety is promoted by the knowledge experts as being most important for me to consume, as well as accessing documents, examples of maybe projects that are related that I want to dip into. And you could narrow that down. You could say, actually, yeah, I'm interested in projects related to fire safety, and I want to be very particular and only look at projects in a particular segment, for example. So maybe an education project related to fire safety is exactly what I need, exactly what I'm looking for. Indeed, you may want to look at this from the context of geography. And this isn't something that needs to be added to separately. This is live information that's connected to your main project databases, but you can then say, look for very particular types of work in particular regions and through an access. You may also want to do this just generally looking through a library. Same difference really, but it's then trying to use the information you already have, as well as give an opportunity to add to it over time. So for example, again, if I was looking for maybe education projects with a particular maybe building element or material, I can do that. And it can be quite difficult at the moment, depending on the kind of structure you have. I might want to then drill down and look at a particular project that we consider exemplary, that I can then leverage the information. So here I can maybe access where are the documents, where are the financial records, who was involved, what are the key documents, what lessons did we learn on the project? Potentially this, again, opportunity to capture, retain items that indeed may save us money later, improve the project delivery, improve the outcomes on the project. And for me, it may be that actually I want to register my interest in some of these tags that you're seeing here. And so the beauty of a strong knowledge management solution is that you can take ownership of the different topics in your practice, not just have individuals maintaining that information, but enable people to follow those tags of interest. So I will always be notified of things related, maybe lessons learned related to education projects, for example, and potentially, I'm wanting to learn more about a particular topic, and I want to be invited to the events that are going on, in that area. And then we've also got this ability to then track key information on the projects. This is a different session for another time, but ultimately, when somebody's looking at a set of tasks, the important thing, in our opinion, and you'll see this from Becky and Ed of LSI, is that if you're asking somebody to do something, you can actually give them the training materials to consume to support them in completion of that task. And for many of us, we're collectively built up of people who have different experiences from different environments or practices. That's good. But how do we have an essential set of information that's ours, that we've added to it as a core group, and that we believe in, and we know is accurate in relating to our business management systems, our information management systems, and of course related back to the core knowledge. So hope that just gives you some context in terms of what we're doing. I'll just and now hand you over to Keith Barry.
So, hi, my name is Gary Jensen. I'm with Cooper Carey, and Matt and team have asked me to talk about our experience with Flow 10. And first of all, I want to give a little shout out to Flow 10. They've been a great partner since we engaged them a little over a year ago, and so here we go. I'm going to talk about Cooper Carey, then we're going to jump into the project. Cooper Carey is a firm of 5 offices in the United States. We have Atlanta, New York, and DC, which are our offices we've had for a while. And in 2023, we acquired a firm called 505 Design and added our Boulder, Denver office and Charlotte. This allows us our footprint to spread out to be a more national firm. Before, as you can see, we're more middle Atlantic. Um, Cooper Carey looks at our practice areas, our market sectors by studios. So these are where we do our work, hospitality, government, so on and so forth. And then within those studios, our market sectors, these are the services that we provide: nutritional architecture, interior design, environmental graphics, stuff like that. And all this plays into what we call our mixed use ecosystem. So Cooper Carey has this ecosystem that we pull together. You can see we're in the center, and then around it are the services that we provide, and then the studios on top of that, and then the different designs that we do. So this is kind of what we consider our mixed use ecosystem and what we bring to the marketplace. So why we're really here, right? So that we went on a project in 2022 to revamp our intranet. We wanted to look at something that was really a hub for our employees to use to gather information about the firm, and so we embarked on defining what do we want to do, what do we want to change, and where we want to go with it. So just looking at our existing intranet when we started, it was a WordPress site, very confusing navigation, this whole live, work, learn, play on the bottom left, and then navigation right. It was just really challenging. As the content was being created and put into the sites, searching wasn't always indexing right. So you'd search something, it'd come back with some inaccurate searching or elements. And it just became confusing. So people stopped using it. And when people stop using an intranet, then you just have different truths. So so we said, okay, why do we want to change this? What do we want? We want to really, an intuitive user experience, a hub for sharing knowledge, like I talked about, a place to highlight our recently completed projects. We never really had a place where someone can look and see, wow, where was that building? What are some of the highlight pictures that we have to show that who was on the project? What was the scope? It was all scattered throughout different environments within our ERP, so Vantage Point or in someone's head. And so we just really wanted a place where people can go and search, a retail project that we did in the state of Georgia, and pull those up and look at those projects, helping find the right people in the firm. Same thing, right? We are multiple offices, and you may know the people in your studio and the adjacent studio, but you don't necessarily know there's someone in New York City or in Virginia, and you're looking for certain attributes. Like I need an architect who has worked on a retail product in this state, or so on and so forth. So we wanted something where we can actually find people and easily connect with them, have them integrated through email and Teams and stuff like that. And then we wanted some to be cloud-based and mobile friendly. Our current intranets at the time was basically behind our firewall. So if you're outside the office, you couldn't access it. So we wanted to make this where the knowledge of the internet was at the fingertips of our users, no matter what device and where they're located. So then we went through the whole selection process, right? And we went through different vendors, and we ultimately selected Flow 10. And first, Matt, who is on the call, made a great impression with what Flow 10 offers. And then as we started talking through the nuances, like AEC focus, the content management is super easy to use. I think just an hour-long training session, and most people get it really quickly. It is really intuitive as well. Had all the right pre-built integrations. So Cooper Carey is a Microsoft 365 shop, Deltek Vantage Point, Open Asset for our digital asset management, and Flow10 had those out the gate for us. So things we weren't have to rebuild like we were with other products. We love their forward feature looking features. The project tracker wasn't something that was really top of mind for us, but as we saw it during the demo, like we could see how this could be something that would play out for us in later phases of the intranet. And then again, as I said, the Flow 10 just made a great impression. Everybody we interacted with was great, pleasant, knowledgeable, responsive, and that's really what you want in a partner. So how we work together, we were assigned a success manager, Roger, who's again really great, and we asked, can we set up a team site and share the information across our team internally at Cooper Carry and with the Flow 10 team, and they said yes. So we set up a team site. We were able to collaborate through different parts of the project. We set up a planner. We were able to assign tasks to each other, and it's funny. I have this little tag. It's not you. It's us, right? I think as we walk through the project with Flow 10, they could have moved a lot faster than us. We have our own internal hurdles that we need to come through, decision making processes, and so again, we had a great experience working with Flow 10 and continue to do that today. And they can move you as fast as you can go. So I would say just be prepared and internally. I really want to kind of show some of things we did and what we changed from. So you saw the previous site, and what we took from Flow 10 was we made a simple navigation. We used the top there. This is basically people, projects, resources, and committees. Those are sort of the top line navigations. And we use a 3-column setup like we have, like you see here, using our branding standards. Um, and the things that we really like is you see on the right hand side, it feeds in our teams channels for certain teams. It feeds in our recent wins from Vantage Point, has some quick links, and then of course has the hero image there, which is beautiful and like highlights some of the things that we've done internally. Moving on into the projects, and again, you see how the beautiful picture is pulled in directly from Open Asset. And on the left-hand side, we have different filters. And this allowed, again, going back to how do I see a particular project type like Office that is active or in this particular state. And we're able to navigate through those and search that. So it just gave this really beautiful gallery to show and highlight our projects. And then we jump into the resources section, and each of those resource sections, we have marketing, we have IT, we have onboarding, project management, and we use a very similar sort of three column layout with the hero image. This actually happens to be a video that you're seeing there, which is embedded. The middle element, which is marketing team, was a custom element that Flow 10 created for us, and it pulls in from Vantage Point, and it pulls in the team members for that particular group, this being marketing. But if you were looking at the IT page or digital practice, it would pull in those people assigned to those departments, which is really cool, right? I mean, if I jump into the marketing section, like who are my marketing people, you can obfuscate it's part of it, but you can click on the person and get their email and teams them right there, which is great. And on the right hand side, you'll see the top right, it says SharePoint. Again, another custom piece that they did for us that we can create a connection to our SharePoint site, and within the folder it'll just list those documents. So the whole idea was creating a way for people um, to have like a live document, say our project standards, and they update it within SharePoint and it's automatically available within the intranet. So you're not uploading and trying to version control multiple places. And this is actually one of the selling points of working with the Flow 10 product. So after all that, what would I do differently? So lessons learned, right? I would say the biggest piece is to prioritize where this fits in your organization. At Cooper Carry, we were gung ho from the beginning, but then work got in the way, right? And so we didn't prioritize it properly, and it took a little longer than we all expected. Don't expect perfection, right? I think that's another issue is that everybody wants everything perfect out of the gate. And I would say, use that 80-20 rule. If you get 80% of the knowledge out there and people are using it, it's better than nothing. Look for quick wins. Instead of trying to boil the ocean and do everything at once, look for the pieces that you could do within that a phased approach. Identify content owners early and get them engaged. As maintaining the content is really important to keep that fresh for people to want to come back and use the product. And if they're not engaged early, it's hard to get them engaged later on. So we had a couple areas we were struggling there, but I would say do that, and then ensure the team is on the same page. oftentimes some of the indecisions we have were just not being on the same page as far as where we wanted to go, and that slowed us down. But that was it. Thank you.
I really appreciate it. It's just so helpful for you to have given that both feedback but overview for everyone. I suppose in terms of questions, and you've been through these types of projects before. I just wondered in terms of how do you select the people in the team? So in terms of individuals, how do you go about having the right people involved in implementing something like Flow 10?
I think it's a couple areas. So certain areas like marketing and branding, right? They'll be a part of it because of the user experience and wanting to make sure it fits that. So I felt like a team is always there. HR has usually a big play within in knowledge management because people are going to understand their HR policies. We looked at somebody from practice area within the Cooper Carry being part of projects. An IT representative, a group we call digital practice, which is the the area within Cooper Carry that specializes in the design tools. And I think it's just it depends on the project and the company, and there's also some interest as well. Like so, we went to the HR group, and like there's an individual who was super excited about it, so we were able to get her on. And if someone's excited about it, you feel like you're going to get a better result out of it. And so we left it open to the different functional areas to assign people or have people contribute to the project.
And then in terms of, you mentioned knowledge management, I just wonder, this may be a universal, well, everybody is committed on board with this, but I just wondered what the sort of reception is within culturally, whether people are quite open and willing to share knowledge and contribute it, or whether certain teams or people, you need to coax it out of them, encourage them, or they can be reluctant to share or just really busy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think it goes back to certain areas, right, where um, it's easy for, say, HR, IT, accounting, who have like certain processes that people want to go and look at instead of individually going to people. They can go to the intranet. It's probably a little bit harder on in the practice area side. Um, Partially because I don't think they want to. I think they're just busy, heads down, going from one project to another, and so taking that time to take a breath and share that knowledge back is will always be a challenge. Um, so and I think you're always going to have people who just like this is about me. I don't know, right or wrong, right? So you're going to always have that the cross the gamut. But I think most people would want to. Just do they have the time to do it? Are they given an opportunity to to sort of settle down and pass on that knowledge? I know that knowledge passed along within their own group and the people they work with on a close on a regular basis. It's a matter of saying, okay, is this something that probably needs to be a more firm wide sharing versus my project team or my studio?
Yeah. Did you have a way of identifying the types of knowledge that would be under most demand? Was there some kind of mechanism or approach to sort of say, well, these are the types of knowledge we really need to have on here?
Yeah, I think we take a pragmatic process approach right early on. Is like, here's what we want from our project managers. Here's what we want from our project architects, and those type of things. As far as just ad hoc knowledge of, well, I learned this from using this tool. That's probably more of a cultural change as the people get more and more comfortable with the solution and the ability to share their knowledge.
And then have you done any internal communication along the way? But that's where the different schools of thought and approaches, but you at some point need to keep the team small, but at some point open up and make sure
Right.
people are aware of this. So how did you go about it in terms of the sequencing?
Yeah, I think naturally it happens, right? Because you people coming from the different areas of the group and they go back and have team meetings and they talk about it. So people naturally knew the internet is coming. It's just a matter of then communicating on a more global through our different channels that we use. We use email and Teams are our two like main channels for communicating those things out. And that's really how to spread is right. And then you just help people get into it, look at some of the metrics that you guys have as far as utilization, and see where things are hitting and where they're not.
And then just in terms of Cooper Carry, are you always sort of investing in technology? Is Flow 10 one of a number of sort of phases you're going through and continue to sort of then develop on?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're always looking for what's best for. In the day, we're a human-driven organization that delivers product to clients, and so we're trying to invest in what makes their lives easier, enable them to do their work better. It's always that balance of total cost of ownership with that, but yeah, we're always looking to see what we can do better, and we feel like something like a really productive intranet, can help with from a cultural perspective, understanding what's out there. Again, we're multiple offices and we always know what each project's going in office. So this whole idea of having a place where you can repository, you go look and see the different projects that are happening, and the ability to put, to highlight some in the gallery, which is really attractive to us, right? It's like creating that awareness within the organization. And we do that other channels as well, but having a more centralized location, again, the people aspect of it. So there's a lot that maybe it's not a tool used for actually designing a building or doing the interior of a build of an office, but there is a ability to help them get their work done better. Hopefully with, as we progress through this, like looking at like some pulling in what people are good at, like their skill set, right? If someone's really good at a particular product and it's like, oh, I need to know someone who's really good with Inkscape, I can search them and say, oh, there's someone in a different office, or even someone in my own office I just don't know, wasn't aware, right? And help them get their work done and be more efficient in what they do.
So that's interesting for me because some of the tools you have are very discrete. They focus on a particular area of the operation, don't they? Whether it be HR or essentially helping support win work.
Mhm.
Presumably, from what you're describing, Flow 10 is touching on actually a number of these areas, or leading someone to be able to leverage some information or find information that's in some of those other systems. Was that the idea, that it's sort of connecting things together?
It is, and I use the word like hub, right? So we're bringing all this disparate information in. So the project information about the type of project and the location that's pulled from Vantage Point, but the vivid pictures are pulled from open assets. The information about the individual people is pulled from Active Directory. So we have all these systems pulling together and aggregating in a way that is intuitive and friendly for our staff to use.
Right. Thanks, Gary. You got anything you wanted to add, do you think?
No, I just want what I want to echo though is it's been great working with you guys, Matt. And I know you invited me to this and for a reason, but yeah, it's been great, a pleasure. I mean, every time we ask questions, you guys are ready to work with us, and which has been great. I know we've probably not the easiest client to work for sometimes because we're demanding in certain aspects, but you've always kind of reached down and helped us, which has been great. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Gary. That was excellent. And thanks to everyone at Cooper Carry that's made that a reality as well. So now we'd like to pass you over to Vicky and Ed from LSI Architects.
So my name's Becky Watson. I've worked for LSI Architects for a little over 10 years now. I started out in the business support hub and currently working as assistant financial controller in the accounts team. So just to introduce LSI a little bit to everyone, we're an AJ100 architectural practice based in the UK with around 70 people, including architects, architectural technologists, and a business support team based across 2 offices in London and Norwich, with Norwich in the east being our main hub. We undertake projects for a wide range of clients, including major contractors, commercial, public sector, and private clients throughout the UK. Our focus is on projects in and around London and the home counties and the east of England. The fact that the majority of our £5.5 million turnover is via repeat business and framework commissions is a testament to both the quality of the work that we do and the quality of our service. Around 50% of our work is in the healthcare sector, 40% in the education sector, and the remaining 10% across other commercial sectors such as residential and workplace. So that's a bit about LS Architects for anybody who hasn't come across us before. And what I'm going to talk about is what was the situation before Flow 10. So before we'd even come across Flow 10, and we were dealing with processes in spreadsheets. So this particular process that we were struggling with at the time relates to agreeing appointment terms on projects where clients weren't using our standard terms and conditions. Back in 2019, I was responsible for maintaining an Excel spreadsheet that had been set up to track the appointment process, which is what you're seeing on the screen. I'd update it every time terms had been emailed to insurers for review, when we received a response from a client or a lawyer, or when clients had been responded to. There was formatting set up to helpfully highlight when things needed to be chased, but mostly it was a manual process of note keeping. I'm sure a lot of people listening will be able to think of at least one process in their organization that's recorded this way still, and will have experienced the same issues we were coming across. If I had any time off, the spreadsheet could quickly be out of date, and so it was never really used by anyone else, as it was too complicated to easily track what was outstanding unless you used it every day. The emails sat in my inbox, and although they were published to our database and linked to the relevant project, it was extremely time consuming to sort back through and work out what terms were actually agreed by the time it came to check an appointment that arrived for signature. More importantly, there was no way of checking where appointments were missing. If we failed to respond to a client when appointments are issued, we lose that opportunity to negotiate our terms, which is a massively important part of our risk management strategy. But we had no way of knowing about an appointment unless it was sent through to our business support team. If you pop onto the next slide, Ed, our finance director did some investigations, and once we'd identified the issue of missing appointments, he searched for a solution that could integrate with Deltek PIM, which is the software we use to manage our projects and document management. So we first looked at implementing Flow 10 Tracker in late 2019 and started with this spreadsheet that you can see now, which sets out the whole process with a huge amount of detail. We put in lots of automated tasks, and they were automatically set up to appear every time a new project or a new bid was created in Deltek PIM, which was an attempt to catch all the data. After we'd made this start, the project was put on hold over lockdowns, and in 2022 we decided to bring a new member into the team, which is where I'll hand over to Ed.
Hey, thank you, Becky. So my name is Ed, and I'm the operations manager at LSI Architects. I joined the appointments team in 2022, as Becky said, when Tracker, or Flow Planner as it was known then, had already been integrated into our appointments tracking process. Although, as Becky's mentioned, it wasn't being used as consistently as we'd like. So one of my first jobs with this team was to review how we could use Flow Planner for our appointments process and to identify how we get more out of the software. Becky has explained briefly how we first implemented Flow Planner, so I'm going to provide a bit more information on my experiences with the software when I joined the team and discuss some of the challenges and opportunities that were presented. And then I'll go on in the second part of this webinar to discuss our more recent second implementation of Tracker and how we made some small changes to our appointments tracking process to get the most out of the software. So our first Tracker process was designed to make as much use of the options for automation and multiple choice task answers, as well as repeating tasks with a large amount of customization, essentially. This meant the process was able to track very simple and detailed steps of our appointments process, with essentially a separate individual task for each action. So, for example, on this screen, you can see how we would answer our first task with 5 different options, and then that would lead on to multiple different task decision trees. What this allowed us to do was to have a separate decision tree set up for different types of appointments. So, for example, a framework agreement, a simple exchange of letters, or a kind of full bespoke appointment. But one of the main challenges that soon became apparent when I started using the system was just the sheer number of open tasks that we were faced with at any one time. And this not only made it somewhat difficult to identify a particular project where attention was needed, but it was also slightly demoralizing to look up at your dashboard and see 100 or so open tasks which couldn't be closed or needed an awful lot of work to work through. And We also found that we struggled to find the time to kind of complete and keep on top of some of the less important tasks within the decision trees, where the process was kind of simply creating an extra layer of admin. So, for example, if we had a exchange of letters where we sent out a fee proposal and our appointment was based on our terms and conditions, we were still going through 4 or 5 task steps for something where that was already filed, and we didn't really need a detailed task process. So in general, we found that we were tracking our appointments process in too much detail, with multiple tasks repeating, especially during longer, more protracted contract negotiations, and tasks were remaining open on simple exchange of letters processes when there was no real need for tracking. So we decided to review how we use Tracker for this process, and we engaged with Flow 10 to identify our opportunities to improve. And the first step they recommended was that we should be upgrading our software to the most recent version, and that we could look at some of the newer features within Tracker that may help us. We also started to review our task layout, and we began to consider some alternative task flows. And having identified that our biggest challenges came from having too many open tasks, we chose to set up a much more simple, streamlined task flow.
So I think one of the first questions I have, maybe I'll just do some of these questions, just get your views on them. But Ed, you mentioned on a number of occasions about task flow, which is, it sounds like quite a mature thing to sort of talk about. And I say that because I've had engagements and met some practice leaders who would tell me they're very established, been around, they're very successful, and so why bother changing? And so a lot of things you've been talking about relate to investments in improvement. I just wondered how you justify that, or if you need to.
So for us, I think the justification is that whilst there's a little bit of a kind of initial investment in putting the process in place and also carrying out, as I explained, you really get a benefit later on when you need to access documents or emails, and the time you essentially save, I'd say, going back to find those documents and emails and checking where you are in the process really pays off.
Just to add to that, I think that the team working part of it as well, as the business expands and as teams grow, things can't be managed by a single person, and the way the overviews work on Tracker really enable us to work better together as a team and all see what we're doing as a whole together. So where all of the tasks are, rather than always having to come to one person, everyone's got that knowledge there.
So we've focused quite heavily on how we've implemented Tracker on this talk, but it is worth mentioning that we sort of ran a second parallel project alongside that to revamp our intranet page and our knowledge management system. That's still definitely in its infancy, and we're looking to kind of expand as much as possible. We had a landing page which Flow 10 designed way back when the original planner system was set up, and we also had a lot of document links on pages which were useful, but we found that trying to gather everything together into a single source of the truth was going to be really beneficial. So we started putting the intranet pages in place. We've now got a knowledge management system which allows us to share stories, but also gather together all of those links to really key information and documents. We've had particular success with a CAD resources page, which allows our IT team and CAD teams to gather and publish all of their newest items and all of their guides.
Okay, so what is that? Oh, I can see it there at the top. Yeah, how's that currently working? Is that? Oh, I see. Right. Yes, so you've got lots of different links through to here, different types of things as well from the looks of it.
Yeah, and I mean, all of this information was sort of going out in ad hoc emails or in different teams channels, and this was just a way to bring it all together into one place and to update it regularly. We've got our resource per week, which allows us to now keep this page up to date and also keep it interesting for people.
And then in terms of teams, groups that exist at LSI, do you have sort of communities that specialize in different topics? Is that something that you have? So for example, digital design or CAD team, is that particular individuals that lead that within LSI?
Yes, so each of our sectors has a director lead, and each of our kind of key areas, such as technical and design, also has a lead director. We've got some areas where there's sort of a more successful, more thriving community. So our healthcare hub has a really active Teams channel, but other areas of this don't quite have as much sort of interaction there. And so one thing we are hoping to do going forward is to try and take the learning from that healthcare hub and apply it across the other teams. And hopefully we can use the knowledge management pages to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just what's the knowledge one then? What is that? Is that similar
So
or different?
That is just a sort of so the knowledge management page essentially features as a back of house area to publish all of our information, and then this feeds through onto the main pages.
Oh yeah, that's good though. And I can see that the recent additions there as well when it comes to posts. So I think it's an interesting time. I'd be interested in your view just in terms of the requirements for adopting and then managing certain standards. So I'm thinking about industry requirements, maybe certain client requirements because you've got the framework. So I just wondered what the situation is with certain information, knowledge management, and also project delivery needs, and whether that's changing at the moment, as well as maintaining some of you've got a number of probably ISO standards.
I think what we use at the moment is that the document management within Deltec to manage all of that. So it's got the different sort of folder structures. So that's where we are with that at the moment. And then this, we're just looking at HR, IT at the moment. So we haven't sort of delved into it too much with the project teams because it's a trickier project to get that take up, isn't it, Ed, of keeping it up to date. And
there's a future project which is just starting out to start using Tracker to kind of manage our project management process, and that's sort of looking at getting our project execution plans tracked in that software, and then ideally we're looking to roll that out to design reviews, technical reviews, and lessons learned.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one to pursue. We're also, just so you're aware, we're currently looking at some of the standard requirements of certain charters or ISOs, especially around, say, what REBA require, or AJ, when you're doing your AJ 100 submission, or the REBA Sustainability Challenge 2030. Well, actually, yes, it might change, but there are some standard template that any practice involved in that needs. Where can we have standard templates and trackers or within fields that may be pulled or additionally added to, which would then just provide some of that output, because there'll be someone within LSI who is doing that submission every year, and it's probably a pain because you've got to go and source all of the information from multiple projects as well and then aggregate it. So a lot of this stuff is about just trying to improve the data quality. In terms of the challenge, LSI has for quite a time invested in technology. You've got investments in project finance and admin management, and you've made beneficial efforts here. But I just wondered in terms of how hard it is to get the staff buy-in generally, both in terms of inputting to the vision, but also then the adoption ongoing.
yeah, that's definitely the biggest challenge, isn't it? And I was the culprit of that with our initial process of implementing flow tracker the first time, and that's why Ed came in and helped us get through that. And it's where we really learned the lesson of just keep using it. And once with tracker, once the information is on there, it's easy for the team then to see the benefit. But it isn't an easy process to go through without being able to see that end process or the end result. So we have another tracker. Do I call it another tracker test? Another tracker test with the bid team, and it's a slow process, but you have to keep making sure that it is going to be beneficial for them, and that we talk through what the result is going to be, and help them get that information on the system. And then once it's there, it gets a lot easier to just maintain. But with the intranet, we've had a really great response from the team, and you can track how many people are looking at it and clicking it, and those numbers initially are looking really good. I think we've only been live for a couple of months, but as long as we keep this going and we keep adding to it, I think it will become the place where people go to look for what they need, which is what we want. Well, we wanted them to go there, but then also to find the things that we want them to see as well. So hopefully we'll achieve that.
Thanks so much, Ed and Becky. Really excellent level of effort there and content shared, and I'm sure everyone appreciates it. In terms of now, we're reaching the end of the webinar, but we've got a couple of points to raise. The first is that shortly after this meeting, we'll be sending you an email from Ruin, and that email will have a link in there to a start guide, because I think it can be difficult in terms of what next, what are the appropriate actions, how can we practically make a difference within our practices to improve project outcomes through knowledge sharing. So we've got a blog which has a bunch of different useful guides and tips. This will be with you, and I think the thing I would point out to from within this is that it really covers the different aspects that you might want to look at. It starts off with an understanding of the need, so that could be consulting others, running surveys, through to effectively the objectives. So there's going to be a sense of understanding what the needs are within your practice. It could be to do with consistency of the quality operation. It might be about directly how you give better knowledge and information to people delivering bids and projects. It might be about onboarding of people. Perhaps there's some need to improve the succession planning within the practice, or ultimately just how do you collectively learn from each other and improve future decision making. And I think we've learned in terms of discussion with LSI and Cooper Carry today that it's important to be simple, it's important to keep it like a project and involve all levels and working groups. There's an opportunity there. I think you need to have senior leadership involved, but you can drive this in a number of directions, starting off with certain groups that already have a forum and have a voice and have a connection to others within the practice. So we leverage different groups such as quality assurance or digital design, QA, etc., and then monitor, review, and improve. And in terms of, I think, the wider spectrum of aspects, we know that knowledge sharing and management really relies on the multi layers of fabric within your practice. And I think that's speaking really in relation to what I was just saying about using different areas within your working groups to understand what the needs are and how to help. And in terms of how we can help, Flow 10, I said before, is part of a wider group called the Million Team, and we're covering 6 key areas. We today have been speaking about the knowledge management side, but we are working directly in other aspects. So if any of those words are screaming or shouting out to you, then please let Ruin or myself know, and we'll be happy to facilitate a discussion around them. And indeed, this year and next, we'll be looking at the webinars with other speakers who will be able to give useful advice and guidance into in terms of those items. In terms of questions, there have been a number that have come through. We're short on time, so what we'll do is we'll be in touch with you individually in terms of the points raised, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you. Bye.